gosh. Hey, Crazy Dre podcast. That's amazing.
Welcome to the Crazy Dre podcast show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have to put that introduction in there just because people are used to it by now. Yes, even you YouTubers out there, you can always follow me on YouTube as Crazy Dre podcast show, or you can go on Patreon, go on Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, rss.com. There you go. There's all my little sponsorships. Look here, folks. I've got to talk about sports. I got to talk about a couple of stories about the NBA, a couple of stories about, I'm going to talk about a story about the golf, live and the PGA Tour merging. Maybe I'll start with that. I come to find out that the PGA Tour and Live Golf are still kind of trying to negotiate their situations about combining the two leagues together. A couple of you people out there don't know, not big golf people out there. Live Golf started a league of its own through a Saudi Arabian group called PIF. And this Saudi Arabia group decided to pay elite PGA Tour golfers a lot of money up front, $200 million, $300 million. At one point it was about, they tried to get Tiger Woods to sign for $700 million. And their reputation was that sooner or later they thought that Live Golf was going to go away. But the Saudi Arabian group keeps putting money into this league. Unfortunately, for Live, not too many people are watching Live Golf, especially in the United States, by my understanding. But they took away, a lot of golfers like DeChambeau, Bubba Watson, and people like Phil Mickelson that kind of stole him away too, even though Phil was going through a lot of issues of his own about gambling and everything else with it. So a lot of people thought that Phil went to Live Golf because he was in debt. But the reason why a lot of people think that the Live Golf or the Saudi Arabian group started the league wasn't all because of Greg Norman, who was the CEO of the spokesperson of that league. Greg Norman, again, is a golfer from the 90s in his prime. For years, he wanted to start a new league. He didn't really like the PGA setup for some reason forth. Some of the players that went to the Live Golf wanted less golf and more money, like the basketball players, baseball players of today, and that wasn't really happening. So that's that was an excuse for them to have Live Golf. But the reality of the reason why Live Golf exists is so that they can be forgiven for human trafficking or sex trafficking or any of those type of issues that the Saudi Arabian group has problems with, or has issues with NATO or whoever is coming down on them about human trafficking. And one of the best ways for countries to pay back their debt is to have sports, pay it off through sporting events by different leagues. This group also has a league that has Rolando in it. That they're paying him millions and millions of dollars to be in the league. Some of you know Messier joined the MLS, American League, for different reasons for his own self. But that meeting went on about 2 days ago or a day ago, and they're trying to figure out how to join these two leagues together. If the leagues combine of today or tomorrow, it sounds like Saudi Arabia will be exonerated from human trafficking laws and everything else with it. So it's about paying your debt. I'm not going to get into it much more about it. Some of you have figured out that there is a virtual reality golf league that's on ESPN that Tiger Woods, Roy McIlroy have now sponsored. It's a virtual reality golf course, so that it kind of brings the golf course to you whenever you are at home or you go to a bar during the winter. Non-golf season, especially on the east side of the country. On the west side of the country, most of you guys and gals can go golfing year round. So this virtual reality golf league has started about a month ago with Tiger Woods in it. It's called Tomorrow Golf League, I think, TGL. It's doing pretty well. It's kind of giving you a different aspect of the game without walking and going from one setup to the next setup. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't tried it, you should do it. You don't have to be a good golfer to do it, but it's a lot of fun. So moving on from that, we're going to the NBA. The NBA is, again, coming off the weekend of the All-Star weekend, a lot of mixed reviews. The slam dunk contest was saved by Mac McClung, three-time three-peat champion. Never has done before, but it's kind of funny how the NBA seems to reach out to certain players to make the league interesting, more entertaining, bring back people. I think Pistol Pete was an example of the 70s, even though in the same era we had Dr. J, but I think Dr. J was still in the ABA league and the NBA had Pistol Pete. Don't correct me if I'm wrong about that. In the mid 90s, we had White Chocolate himself from Florida, great basketball player, great passer, a good visually sound player that was on one of the Western Conference Championship team with Sacramento Kings with Chris Webber. But now we have Mac McClung, another white kid. As you can tell, they're relying on white kids from America to bring back the NBA somehow, some form. Is it racist to say that? That's up to you to decide. I can't tell you. But it's kind of coincidental, I think. I don't think the Pistol Pete thing was really a race value thing. I think it was that the NBA was very weak and a lot of players were not always in a healthy shape. And Pistol Pete was very talented and skillful and obsessed with basketball, so he stood out a lot better or more. Obviously, in the late 70s, early 80s, it was the Boston Celtics, legendary Boston Celtics, the LA Lakers, Larry Bird, Celtics, Magic Johnson, Bad Boys era, Michael Jordan era, Kobe, and now LeBron James. And the All-Star game was a debacle because they spent too much money on advertisement. They acknowledged, unfortunately, they made it impossible to honor the TNT crew who do pre-games and games analytically during halftime. Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, Ernie Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, those guys. And those guys, unfortunately, they are not going to go to ESPN. I know that Kenny Smith and Shaquille O'Neal are going to ESPN. Ernie Johnson, I think Ernie Johnson's still going to be participating with TNT. My correction, I should say this a little differently. Kenny Smith and Shaquille O'Neal are signing with TNT, even though the NBA is going to be with Amazon and with ESPN, ABC, and NBC Network. So they'll still be working for TNT. They'll just be underneath the covers of ESPN. Um, Charles Barkley, I haven't heard much about Charles Barkley. He does not want to go to Amazon. He does not want to go to ESPN because he doesn't want to work 30 days in a row. And I get it. Why would you want to work 30 days in a row and talk about the same game that's not on in the off season? That's a good way to actually look at it. Other news in NBA. Well, I should also say that the All-Star game was going along with the All-Star game with too many commercials. The four-team system kind of failed because of you had to play up to 40 points. I didn't think it did any good for have Draymond Green to be on TV talking to how much of a debacle the All-Star game is. I think that guy just has a bad attitude. If you work for a network or you work for a company, it doesn't matter if you work for $1 billion company, and it doesn't matter if you work for a $100,000 company that's just starting. It doesn't matter if it's grocery, or it doesn't matter if it's the professional sport league. You have to be somewhat respectful for what they're trying to do. I do think that the NBA is concentrating too much on the European League. I think they have Luka Doncic. They got the Joker. Unfortunately, I was going to the story about Victor Wembanyama. He is going to be out sidelined from the Spurs for the rest of the year because of his. He's got a clot in his shoulder. Great kid, great. I mean, he's phenomenal. He's I was kind of surprised how well he was playing. I think it's unfortunate for the NBA to lose a young star, but again, he's a European player. I think that's the biggest issue about the NBA right now is that they don't have all-star players who are from America. They do have Edwards from Minnesota Timberwolves. I think he's probably the brightest star in the NBA right now. I wouldn't not consider LeBron James anymore just because he's a lot older. ESPN made a big deal about his slam dunk over some player from Wednesday night. But to be honest with you, if you're not going to get in the lane and you're not going to follow the guy or not try to stop the guy from dunking, that dunk doesn't really matter. It really doesn't. So I'm debunking that great dunk. Other news, Bobby Portis of the Milwaukee Bucks is suspended for 25 games for accidentally taking this inflammatory painkiller Tremata drug. He was supposed to take the Toradol, Toradol drug, but he was given the wrong drug. So he's going to lose out $2.85 million. Again, you got to know what's going in the system. I can't stress enough how it is tough to be a professional athlete if you're being told to do this and do that. I'm not an athlete, but my trust with people would be very small. So unfortunately, and Bobby Portis is accepting it. He's not appealing for it, appealing the suspension for 25 games. So that's great news for him. And then one of the last things I want to talk about before I move on is the Luka and Anthony Davis trade. Again, when you look at the stats, if I were to look at this and see that the Dallas Mavericks are the 8th seed and the Lakers are the 4th seed. No, I'm sorry, the 5th seed. I just find it interesting that trade was a debacle. I think it was bad. I think the Dallas Mavericks has a lot of explaining to do. Again, I said it before, they are already refunding season ticket holders for the rest of the season because of Luka out and Anthony Davis in. And I just think that the NBA is trying too hard to save the league by doing the wrong choices. Like I don't think that I don't think the in my opinion, I don't think that any of the other teams' presidents agreed on this trade. I think this is solely based on the NBA, Alex Silva executive order to do this. I think that they thought by having the Lakers try to be in the finals or being one of the final 2 or 3 teams in the Western Conference to make it in the playoffs over Dallas Mavericks is a bit obnoxious. Yes, there's stories out there for the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, which she just bought the team, and that she wants to move the team to Vegas. And by doing that, she has to sell her profits, and Luka is her profit, I guess. And I think that's a really dumb thing. Again, Luka's 25 years old, 26 years old, prime of his career. Yes, maybe he's out of shape, but is it important to be the best fit player in the league? I don't think so. I think by having Luka and Jovic play the way they do and they're not always 100% in shape, proves to the NBA and proves to everyone else that you don't have to be a statue of this perfect athlete to be a great athlete. I think if you look at Magic Johnson, you look at Larry Bird. Larry Bird never looked like he gained 30 pounds of muscle for any game against the Pistons or the Lakers. Magic Johnson didn't look like he was in the gym, muscling up, being in the best shape of his life. Michael Jordan, remember Michael Jordan was not always in the gym. It wasn't until Detroit physically manhandled Michael Jordan. Larry Bird also manhandled, or the Boston Celtics also manhandled Michael Jordan. But it took the Pistons team to have Michael Jordan go into this fitness awareness, I would call it. So that in itself is what I would consider that you don't need the best looking person in the NBA to be the Premier League player. I think they're looking too much into the next Michael Jordan. I'm going to explain this to you as much as possible in the next minute, less than a minute. So Hollywood goes after people that look particularly a certain type. If you take James Dean, Elvis Presley, Robert Redford, Brad Pitt, what do they all look like? They all look like each other in some form and shape. Am I correct? I am correct. You have to look that up. Look at the high cheekbones, look at the facial structure, look at everything that would make someone a good-looking person or a good-looking guy. You can do this again with supermodels like Cindy Crawford, Kathy Ireland, any Instagram girl that is got that high cheekbone, tall. You can see it. You can also see it in certain in the black community with actors, Denzel Washington, even Samuel Jackson can almost fit that persona with a facial structure in that form and shape, even though they're 2 different actors. Morgan Freeman is another example of someone with higher cheekbones for the entertainment media. With the NBA, it was not always like that. You had a scrawny guy like Pistol Pete. You had a little guy like Isaiah Thomas. You had Spud Webb. You had Chris Mullen. You had Larry Bird, Matt Johnson. They weren't very good-looking guys. Some people would consider them good-looking, but technically, when they figured out that they can make a lot of money off the Michael Jordan look-alike contest, Kobe Bryant looks like Michael Jordan. LeBron James looks like Kobe, looks like Michael Jordan. They're trying to find the next Michael Jordan after LeBron James. The best way to fix that is to force LeBron James to retire and then bring back the physicality of the game where you can actually foul somebody going into the lane and it's not a technical foul or flagrant foul. Excuse me for stuttering, as you can tell, I do stutter sometimes. But that's what, I mean, you have to bring the NBA back to what it was. And you can't allow guys going in the lane, not touched, and dunking on something or someone that's not really trying to block you. That's not competitive. Stop allowing players that have 25% or 30% three-point percentage. Make them stop shooting three-pointers. I seriously think that they should do that. I think that if I was a coach, if one of my players, let's say Isaiah Stewart, and I don't want to use him in a negative way, but I think he's a very aggressive, hands-on, physical player, great rebounder, hardworking guy. But I think that he's a good example of what I'm talking about, of a player that should not be throwing up three-pointers, and he should not really care about throwing up three-pointers. His points should be towards the basket, off rebounds, going up after the rebound. And so when you get a rebound, go up to the basket and hit your free throws if you get fouled. Make it an essential thing. They're making tall players play small. And only basketball players and only basketball coaches will understand this. Stop making tall guys who are lanky, who are not three-point shooters, like Steph Curry. Now, Steph Curry is not 6'9", not 6'10", not 6'11", but he's 6'4" or 6'3", somewhere in that area. So it makes more sense for him to shoot the ball because the way the ball is released in the air and it's able to make the way that the ball goes into the basket, where tall players, when they're too short, they're too tall, and the rim's only 10 feet high, they almost like throw the ball at the rim, where if you're shorter, the ball gets more of a rainbow effect to it, and it can come down into the basket. So a lot of you guys that don't know basketball, and a lot of you guys that do know basketball will understand, stop making players who are not three-point shooters shoot. And it's okay. I'm going to be honest with you. If I was a head coach of any team, I don't care if it's a high school and I wouldn't pick on a pee-wee basketball team or junior pee-wee or whatever league, but I will tell you this. If I have a player who's not a three-point shooter and he can't shoot to save his life, it's like, son, please stop shooting that ball. If you shoot that ball again, I'm not only going to make you do 15 push-ups, but the rest of the team is going to do 15 push-ups, because I want you to understand your strong points. Your strong points is your rebounding ability and your leaping ability to get off the ground very quick after a rebound. I'm just putting that out there. Call me crazy. I am Crazy Dre. So, again, thank you for showing up. I hope everyone here has a good weekend. I may do a podcast or a show about the USA-Canada game. I'm hoping USA wins, obviously. Peace, love, and take care of yourselves, kiddos. All right, I'm out of here. If I can quit on this, oh my gosh.